Good evening to one and all present over here. Thanks for viewing my videos and providing me a continuous support. And today I have started a new playlist called as the 6 languages, where we'll be dealing with writing a single program in 6 different languages. So that will be providing a detailed understanding of how a given program, what are the syntaxes associated with various programming languages, and what are the set of rules to be followed in writing a program, what are the errors that will be commonly occurring in each of the programs. If I want to translate a program written in one language to another language, everything will be seeing it in a simplified manner. So we'll not be having a very large amount of theory, and this playlist will be particularly useful for people who are preparing for the campus interviews and who wants to have their career started in an IT company or IT engineering or any other product based company where they are using a mix of various programming languages. So this will be providing a single shot as a single reference. You will be studying about 6 different programming languages under a single roof, and this will be very helpful for you. I require your continuous support in this regard. And with this basic introduction, let me go into my video. So this is my this is the topic over here. This is the name of the playlist, 6 languages. And these are the some of the tools. If you want to try it in desktop means, these are the some of the tools: GCC, G++, GCC for executing C programs in command prompt, G++ for executing C++ programs in command prompt, JDK is required for executing Java programs. Python 3.9, it is actually available as a add-in in Windows 10 itself. Visual Studio for executing C# programs. If you do not want any of these tools to be in your computer means, you can automatically go for this free open source tool, Jigs for Jigs IDE, by going into this particular website. Okay, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to go with, as usual, no, any programming language, they will be starting to teaching you with the Hello World program. And this Hello World program, how we are going to code it in different programming languages. That is the basic thing behind today's video. So Hello World. So this is your C language. Here we are having the syntax hash include stdio.h. Those who are familiar with the C language in your 11th or 12th, you know, this is called as a pre-processor directive. That means you are giving a command to the compiler to include this header file based functions into this particular method. So only if you give this particular stdio.h, you can use the functions associated in stdio.h. Stdio header file is nothing but it is a group of functions and variables associated for a particular set of operations. So printf is nothing but it is going to display a string in the console. Console window means your computer monitor or in any other output window where you want the output to be displayed. So this is the printf method over here, printf hello world. So alternative way of writing the same program is const char star p is equal to hello world, printf percentages slash n p. This const char is nothing but p is nothing but a pointer to a address. That address contains a constant character array. A constant character array or a constant character. This hello world is the constant character. This p is pointing to an address. That address is containing this particular hello world. That is the thing I'm trying to convey over here. stdio.h is nothing but your standard input output.header file. So if you are going to include the header file within this angular brackets means it is a predefined header file. If I'm going to include it within a double quotes means it is user defined header file. So all the header files must be ending with .h extension. This is compulsory. So what is the syntax of the printf function? If you see means int printf const char star c string. The c string is nothing but the pointer to address. That address is holding a constant character array. What is a constant character array? Hello world. In this case, this hello world will be stored in one particular memory location. That C string is pointing to that particular memory location. So that hello world will be provided over here. C string is actually a pointer to a location. That location will be accessed, and the hello world, whatever value I'm giving there, that will be accessed by this printf function and it will be sent to the display screen. So for providing you an information, how does this same hello world program can be written with respect to this printf function, I have provided this program. I have told you const char star p is equal to hello world. This p is nothing but a pointer. It is nothing but a address. It is actually pointing to a location. That location, I am saying that it must hold this particular string in it. This string must be only printed over here. That is the meaning of these two statements over here. This p is nothing but a pointer. Pointer is pointing to a location. That location, I am telling it, it must hold this particular string in it. It must not change. It must not change means only a user can perform a change. For example, hello world, suppose for example, I can, once a value has been defined into this particular location, this constant character location, I cannot again change it. It becomes a read-only quantity. Only read-only quantities alone can be printed by means of printf function. So since I'm going to display a string over here, I'm giving the percentage s as my format specifier. Format specifier means this is the basic thing, percentage flags with dot precision length specifier over here. No need to bother about the remaining four things. Specifier, if I want to display a string means I must give yes, percentage yes. Leave behind this flag with dot precision length. This will be studying in our upcoming videos. So what is meant by a pointer? It is a variable which holds the address of another variable. So what is this const char C string indicates? C string is a variable. It points to a location. The content in that location is constant, but the content in that location is constant. So you can vary the address. Whatever address you are going, it must be a read-only location. So the C string is pointing to a read-only location. Read-only location means the value stored in that location can never be changed by anyone. Once you have written it, you cannot change it. So those strings alone can be sent to the display screen by means of printf function. So this is the way. For example, in 5A43, if I have stored the word hello world, I cannot again go and change it. So those are called as my constant character strings. So instead of accessing it directly, what I'm going is I'm using a pointer. So P is a pointer. That pointer is actually holding 0x5A43. In that 0x5A43, I'm having the string called as hello world. That hello world is a read-only memory location. The 0x5A43 is a read-only memory location. Only those locations can be accessed by printf function. So in order to illustrate the read-only quantities, I have used this another format of displaying the hello world. Next, C++. So here also the similar syntax, but we will be having a different header file, IO string. This will be containing the objects cout and the manipulator function ndl. So this what is thing over here means in C++, the main must be compulsorily having the int as the data type. Every function will be having certain data type. The data type will be indicating what is the value that will be returned by the function on completion of your task. So here main is the name of the function, int is the type of the value that will be returned by a function on completion of a task. So since I am mentioning int over here, I am providing some integer value over here, return 0. It doesn't matter even if you give return -1, return 1, return -255, any integer you can give. An integer means it is a combination of both positive as well as negative values. So cout is nothing but the name of the object. It is actually an object of OStream class. Actually, IOStream is nothing but input output stream. Stream is nothing but another term for data. In C++, a data is called as your stream. So this header file contains the cout object in it as well as the endl manipulator function within it. So we'll be dealing deep into the manipulator function and object in upcoming videos. For now, just understand the syntax of cout. Cout double less than string to be displayed or a variable to be displayed. This double lesser than is nothing is called as stream insertion operator. It is nothing but overloaded form of a left shift operator. That means one operator having multiple functionalities in different classes. That is called as operator overloading. A plus symbol, it can be used as a addition operator in one class, and it can be used as a string concatenation operator in another class. So same plus operator, it is having different terms, different meanings in different classes. That is called operator overloading. So it is called as lesser than in case of arithmetical classes, whereas if it is called as stream insertion operator when it is coming to the OStream class over here. So Cout is nothing but an object. This double S is lesser than is present as part of your OStream class. So this is called as a stream insertion operator. And multiple, for example, the Cout is the object of OStream class. It is defined in IOStream header file under the namespace std. So these and all we'll study in the next upcoming slides over here. So the Cout is nothing but the object which is directly connected to your computer display screen. So whatever string you are sending it to the Cout object by means of this stream insertion operator, that will be displayed in the screen. Endl is nothing but it is a manipulator function. After printing a string, it will be taking the cursor to the next line. It is not compulsory to have a namespace. A namespace is again nothing but a storage or a folder which will be holding several classes, data members, functions within it. So what is the main purpose of namespace if you see means there can be multiple classes, multiple methods, multiple variables having the same name, but for different purpose. If I want to create a differentiation between them, I need to go for a namespace. I need to group the names, I need to group the variables, classes, methods to a separate namespace. If I'm going to give different namespaces, accordingly the compiler will be easily able to understand to what purpose is the class, method, variable are belonging to. Namespace is nothing but a folder. It is a container which will be holding classes, variables, methods, or any other classes. So as the number of namespaces is very large, you can create multiple variables with same name, same methods, same variables, all having the same names but having different functionalities. So that is the very powerful feature of C++ programming, this concept of having the same name to different functions, different variables under a different roof. It is not available with C programming language. Only C++, Java, C#, all these are having these features within it. Similarly over here, header files is nothing but anything enclosed within angular brackets. Like this, it is called as your predefined header file. If it is enclosed within double quotes, it is user defined header file. So here, if I'm not using this, using namespace std over here, I need to each time include this keyword std along with cout endl like this. If I'm using the namespace std, I need not use those things over here. However, the main function must be always returning the integer value back to the compiler. So this is the way how the hello world is transmitted to the display screen by means of the Cout object. Endl is the manipulator function. It will be transmitting after printing the line. It will be sending the cursor to the next line. It is called as a new line function. It is called as manipulator functions in case of C++. Namespace is not compulsory, but we will be studying what is the strongest feature associated with the concept of namespace in upcoming videos. Next, this is Java language. Here I am using a class name called as hello world. Within the class, I am using one main method over here. It is having this much signatures associated with it: public, static, void, main, string, args. This is called as your command line arguments over here. System.out.println hello world. Alternate program is you can shift the square bracket over here. Remaining things you must not at all touch. Just shift the square bracket over here, another variant. So this is the general way. So we need to know why we are declaring like this. For that, we will be showing the general syntax of the class name. Within that, data members will be there. Then functions which will be operating on the data members also will be present. And finally, we'll be having the main method. So only the class which is having the main method must be used for saving the Java file. There can be multiple classes. The class which is having the main method alone must be used for as the file name for saving a Java program with .java extension. You must never save a Java file with a .class extension. A Java .class extension are particularly useful when you are going for automated testing using Selenium WebDriver. That we'll be learning it in the next playlist. I'll be creating it for it. So when you want to perform automated testing on several web browsers such as Safari, Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, and Chrome, Internet Explorer, you can go with the Selenium WebDriver, and in that you will be using .class files for execution. You will not be using .java files for execution. Ordinary .java files will be used for application development. There you will be using .class files for manual testing, automated testing. Automated testing means whether the website is working properly, whether it is providing a proper response to the client. Everything can be checked by means of a Selenium WebDriver. That is a dedicated software, and that will be used for checking whether a web browser is working properly or not, whether all the things are working according to the condition or not. So here over here, public static void main. We will see what is the overall structure of your Java program. This is the overall structure of your hello world program over here. I already said only these things alone can be changed. The remaining things remains the same. So what is a class is nothing but a template which consists of data members, function. Another name for function is method. It may or may not contain main method. That only I'm saying. A Java program can have multiple classes. Only the class which is having the main method must be used. Only the class name which is having the main method must be used for saving the Java file. So data members are nothing but variables which are of particular types. Methods are nothing but functions which will be operating over the variables. So we are grouping the variables as well as the functions within a particular storage unit. That storage unit is called as class. It is nothing but a container. Okay. So public static void main, what does it indicate? Public means that main method can be accessed by classes outside this hello world class. So there are multiple classes within a Java program. It can be accessed by any classes within a particular Java program as well as classes belonging to any other packages. Package is nothing but a group of classes within a particular folder. Package is nothing but a group of classes, related classes within a particular folder. Package is nothing but folder. So if I want a class belonging to a particular package to be accessed by classes belonging to other packages, I need to declare the main method. If I want the main method inside a class belonging to a package to be accessed by methods belonging to other packages, methods belonging to the classes of other packages, I need to declare main as public method. Public method means any class methods can access it. There is no any restriction to it. Static means that method can be accessed without creating an object for the class. Object means in Java, you cannot directly access a class variables. So if I'm having there is one small concept over here. If I'm going to include a static, I'm going to include a word called as static before each of these data members as well as this methods means I need not create an object. I can directly access all these data members as well as methods by just mentioning the class name. If I'm not mentioning the word called as static before any of these data members or method members, I need to first create a copy of this class. That copy is only called instance or object. Then I can perform operations over this data members as well as method members. That is the basic concept behind this. Just if I need including a static keyword over here, no need to create an object. I can directly access it by just mentioning the class name itself. I can access all the data members as well as method members just by mentioning the class name. If I am not including, then I need to create an object. Object is nothing but an instance of your class. In that, using that object, I can access the data members as well as the method members. So this main method, it can be directly accessed without creating an object of the class in which it is declared. So I am declaring that main method to be static. Void means it is not returning any value to the Java virtual machine. String args is nothing but your command line argument. In command prompt, you will be giving the Java file name as the statement for executing Java program. Along with the file name, the additional things what you are going to give. Those are called as your command line arguments. Java file name is the keyword for executing a Java program in command prompt. Along with the file name, what are the additional things you are going to give? That will be taken as command line arguments. It will be stored in the form of an array. Whatever additional strings you are giving apart from the file name during execution of Java program, that will be stored as your command line arguments over here. Next is system.out.println. System is a public as well as a final class. Public means the class can be the methods, variables in that particular class can be accessed by all the classes, all the other classes. Classes belonging to any other packages. Final class means you cannot create a subclass for this particular class. The class is declared final, you cannot create a subclass. That means it is not inheritable. Out is nothing but a actually it is a variable present in the print stream class. You are creating an object of the you are creating actually creating a variable. So out is nothing but a object of print stream class that is declared as a variable within system class. Out is nothing but an object of print stream class that is declared as a variable within system class. This out only is connected to the display string. Similarly, println is a class present in print stream class. You are overloading it in system class. Overloading means one function name, multiple different functionalities. Same function name, different functionalities is called as method overloading or function overloading. I already told you method overloading concept plus add. Either I can add two numbers or I can concatenate or join two strings. Both things are called as add. So same method name but different functionalities is called as method overloading. So println is actually a method belonging to print stream class. It has been overloaded in system class. So its main purpose after printing the particular string given in system.out.println statement, it will be taking the cursor to the next line. So this is the way how the hello world program will be transmitted to the display screen. Here the out will be used as the object. That object only will be connected to the display screen over here. This is in Python language. Only just a print statement alone is enough. No need of all those laborious, including the packages, including the calling various class names, everything and all not present over here. Here also there are certain restrictions. We will see it in the upcoming videos. Here Python 1.x or 2.x, we can, what is the major thing what we can see means strings can be either enclosed within double quotes or it can be enclosed within single quotes. Strings can be either enclosed within double quotes or it can be enclosed within single quotes. Similarly, the parenthesis can be present or parenthesis cannot be present. Both these options are available. Either you can place a string within double quotes or you can place a string within single quotes. Either you can enclose them within parenthesis or it is not compulsory to include a parenthesis. This is one of the greatest advantage of Python. Very simple statement for printing a string in the display screen. So what is the basic syntax if you see means print object. Object is nothing but the string what you are giving in the print statement. Object separator means if there are multiple strings and if you need to create a separation between them, you need to provide a delimiter or a separator. If you're not providing anything, by default, this single quotes will be provided as a separator between the adjacent strings. End is nothing but after printing a statement coming to the next line. So by default is new line feed character. This is /n. File is nothing but it is belonging sys.stdout. Sys.stdout is nothing but which holds the object to be printed before sending it to the screen. So directly it will not be sent. First the whatever string you are giving in the print method that will be first transferred to a file. From the file it will be going to the display screen. So default file is sys.stdout. So this stdout is nothing but an object. It has a write method. The write method only will be transferring the string from the file to the display screen. So this file is nothing but we can name any file. We are not giving any file. For example, if I want to transfer this string to a specific file, from that I want to transfer it to a display string, I can do it. But if I'm not mentioning anything, the compiler, the Python compiler will be automatically using this file as the default file. sys.stdout, sys is the name of the class, stdout is the name of the object, and write is the name of the method for transferring the string from sys.stdout file to the display string. Finally, flush. Flush indicates true or false. What is true? Whether the string present in sys.stdout file has been transmitted to the display screen. That means true. If it has not been transmitted, it is false. So default value is false over here. So this is the way how the hello world program is being displayed on the print screen. Here the sys.stdout file is the major player acting as an intermediate between the user program and the display screen. The same thing can be applied to the same similar diagram can be applied to Python 3.x, but one compulsory thing is that the strings, whether it may be within single quotes or whether it may be within double quotes, they has to be compulsorily placed within parentheses. If you are not giving parentheses, if you are going to use Python 3.x based shell programs or interpreters, you will be surely getting an error. This parenthesis is not a compulsory thing in 1.x and 2.x, whereas it is a compulsory quantity in 3.x, or else you'll be getting an error. So that is the thing what I'm trying to convey over here. So the main difference, while the string is a print function, can be either given within parentheses or without parentheses. The string in print function has to be compulsory given within parentheses, or else it is an error in Python 3.x. So this is the way how it is being transmitted from the program to the display screen by means of sys.stdout. So finally, this is your C hash language or C# language. It is its syntax is a mix of C++ and Java. Mix of C++ and Java. Namespace is nothing but a container which will be holding classes, methods, variables, and other namespaces. One namespace can contain multiple namespaces also. So here the name of the namespace is hello world, and the name of the class within that namespace is hello. Here kindly note some things have to be noted in C#. You cannot just as it is translate between Java to C# over here. Certain precautions to be taken. Static void main string args over here. This is the name of the method for printing the hello world. System is the name of the namespace. Within that namespace, I am having a class called as console. Within that class, I am having a method called as writeLine. Within the writeLine, I'll be giving this string which has to be printed in the display. So the system can be avoided if I'm using the using keyword over here. Or else if I'm not using this, each time I need to mention this system. If I'm mentioning the namespace, I can directly go with the class as well as the method name within it. If I'm not mentioning the namespace first itself, I need to each time mention the namespace, then the class within it, then the method within the class. This is the way how I can perform a particular operation in C#. So what are the things, if I'm using the key, system is the name of, is the namespace. It's also called as the container. It contains a non-inheritable console class. The console class cannot be, subclass cannot be created for the console class. That is meant by meaning of the word non-inheritable. So the console class contains the write method. System is the name of the namespace. So if the using keyword is not present, using keyword is used means, if this using keyword is used means I can directly write it as console.writeLine. Object is the string which I want to print it in the display. If the using keyword is not used means I have to mention the namespace, dot the class name, dot the method name, and the string I want to print it. So here also similar to a C++ program, that namespace is not compulsory. Whatever value, whatever functionalities the namespace has in C++, the same functionality over here also. So next one, here the class, this name of the class is hello, and the name of the namespace with in which the class is present is hello world. So the string args and string args in Java and command line arguments. Here this is the command line argument for C# programs. String args is the, so there are slight differences between these two. Here, this square brackets in Java, it can be placed before the args or after the args. Whereas over here, it has to be compulsorily placed before the args over here. Otherwise, it is an error. Similarly, in Java, this string, this first letter in the string args, string is a capital letter, whereas it is a small letter over here. Similarly, the class in Java, this can be either in uppercase or lowercase, all the 5 letters. Class, all the 5 letters of the class can be either in uppercase or lowercase. But here in C sharp, it must be compulsorily within, either class can be in uppercase, the first letter of class will be in uppercase. Sorry, this is slight change over here. Here the first letter can be, the first letter of the keyword can be in uppercase or lowercase. Whereas in C sharp, it must be compulsory in lowercase. If you are going to make a change in it, you will be getting again an error. Last one, the main keyword in Java, it will be in lowercase. The M, the first letter of the main method, M, it will be in lowercase in Java, whereas it must be uppercase in C sharp. These are some of the important things you need to keep it in mind. It will be very, very similar, but with a very subtle difference. Subtle difference means it cannot be very easily found. Very, very minute differences, but must be carefully following it. Here in string, S is capital in Java, whereas here it is small. The square brackets can be changed. The location of the square brackets can be changed either before args or after args, but in C sharp, compulsorily before args. In class keyword, the C in Java is either uppercase or lowercase, but in C sharp, the first word of class, keyword class C, that must be compulsory in lowercase. Similarly, in Java main method, M, the first letter of the main method, it must be in lowercase. In C sharp, it must be in uppercase. Changing any one of these things will be providing you a error. Last one, static, again it indicates the main method can be accessed without creating any object for the class in which it is declared. Here within the hello class, it has been declared. If I want to access the main method, I need not create the object for the hello class. I can directly access it over here. Then void means what happens means it does not return any value. And finally, main is the name of the method. String is nothing but string args is nothing but your command line argument, which will be giving in command prompt. In command prompt, how you will be compiling, how you will be executing a C sharp program is file name or file name.exe. After a compilation operation, in the next line, I'll be giving file name or file name.exe. After this file name.exe, file name or file name.exe, whatever extra things I am giving, that will be my command line arguments. So that will be stored in this particular array called as args. The name of the array is args, and the string is the type of the data. It will be stored in the args array. Args is actually the array length is not fixed. Depending upon the args that you are giving, depending upon the arguments you are giving in the command line prompt, it will be keep on storing it. String is the type of the data present in the args array. Args is the name of the array. That square brackets indicates the size of the array. So this is with the hello world. This is the way how the hello world will be transmitted from the computer program to the display screen by means of console.writeLine method. So this is the different programs, and I'll provide the PDF. The PDF for this particular thing will be provided in the link where I'm posting this video. And thank you for patiently hearing to my video. Thank you. I require your comments over this particular video. It will be helpful in improving my future videos. Thank you. In the next video, we'll be coming out with how to perform an addition operation in all these 6 languages using the operators, functions, and various functionalities present within the respective languages. Thank you.